The desert night stretched endlessly, a vast ocean of indigo and silver under the watchful eye of the moon. Dr. Jonathan Crane sat perched atop a high dune, the cool sand beneath him a stark contrast to the relentless heat they had endured during the day. The moonlight painted his weathered face with a serene glow, softening the sharp lines etched by years of sun and hardship. Around him, the desert lay silent and still, the only sounds the distant rustle of wind-stirred grasses and the faint call of a night-bird far off in the distance. Jonathan's mind wandered through the events that had led him here, the relentless chase, the crushing weight of loss, and the fleeting moments of awe beneath the shimmering oasis. The merciless sunlit days, the treacherous mirages, the ancient temple's eerie shadows, and the fierce confrontation with Malik all seemed like fragments of a fading dream. Yet beneath the memories lay a deeper understanding, one born from pain and perseverance. He exhaled slowly, the cool night air filling his lungs. The desert had been both a crucible and a sanctuary, stripping away his obsessions and revealing truths he had long buried. Here, beneath the desert moon, he could finally confront the ghosts of his past, the friend lost to the sands, the failures that had haunted his every step, and the desperate hunger for immortality that had driven him to the brink. A soft crunch of footsteps drew his gaze. Leela Hassan approached silently, her figure a graceful silhouette against the star-studded sky. Her sun-kissed skin gleamed faintly in the moonlight, and her intense eyes held a quiet strength that had steadied the team through every trial. "Mind if I join you?" she asked softly, settling down beside him without waiting for an answer. Jonathan nodded, grateful for her presence. "It's rare to find a moment of peace out here." Lila smiled faintly. "The desert gives and takes, but it also holds stories, ancient ones passed down through generations. Stories of endurance, spirit, and respect. My family has always believed the desert is alive, watching over those who walk its sands." He listened as she shared tales of her ancestors, weaving a tapestry of history and reverence that deepened his connection to the land. Her voice was steady and warm, a balm to his restless soul. Before long, Dr. Marcus Finch appeared, his older frame casting a long shadow in the moonlight. Adjusting his glasses, he approached with his characteristic, cautious curiosity. "I thought I might find you here," Marcus said, settling a respectful distance from the pair. "The desert has a way of pulling you in, even for a skeptic like me." Jonathan smiled faintly. "I never thought I'd hear you admit that." "Well," Marcus replied, "there are mysteries here that defy explanation. The oasis, the illusions, the ancient guardians, it all challenges the rigid lines of science I've clung to. But perhaps there's room for awe alongside reason." The three sat in companionable silence, their gazes fixed on the vast expanse of sky where the desert moon sailed slowly overhead. The memory of the oasis lingered like a fragile dream, its ethereal beauty slipping away with the coming dawn. Yet in its vanishing, it left something enduring, a testament to the delicate balance between myth and reality. Jonathan's thoughts drifted to Malik, the ruthless adversary whose greed had threatened to unravel everything. The battle beneath the fading moon had tested his resolve and forced a choice between selfish desire and selfless sacrifice. In that moment, he had understood that some treasures were too precious to claim, their true value lying not in power but in preservation. The first pale fingers of dawn stretched across the horizon, softening the night's darkness. The desert's magic was fading, but Jonathan felt a quiet hope blossoming within him. The journey had changed him, stripped away illusions, forged new bonds, and revealed the true meaning of legacy. He stood, brushing the sand from his clothes. Turning to Lila and Marcus, he said, "We have a responsibility now to protect what we've found, to honor those who didn't make it, and to carry these lessons forward. The desert's secrets are its own, but our respect and stewardship ensure they endure." Lila nodded, her eyes shining with determination. "We will make sure the story lives on, not just as a legend, but as a testament to the spirit of those who dared to chase it." Marcus smiled, a rare warmth breaking through his usual skepticism. "And perhaps, in doing so, we find a kind of immortality, not in power, but in the legacy we leave behind." Jonathan gazed once more at the horizon where night met day. The desert moon was fading, but its light had left an imprint on his soul. Beneath its glow, he had found not just an oasis, but a new purpose, one rooted in humility, courage, and hope. As the sun's first rays kissed the dunes, the trio prepared to descend from the heights, carrying with them a story etched in sand and memory, ready to face whatever the endless chase might bring next. Their journey was far from over, but beneath the desert moon, they had found a moment of peace and the strength to move forward into the uncertain dawn. The desert whispered around them, its timeless voice a reminder that some mysteries are eternal, and some journeys never truly end. The desert sun was just beginning to crest the horizon, casting a warm gold that spilled over the rugged landscape like liquid fire. Dr. Jonathan Crane stood silently atop a small ridge, the cool morning breeze tugging softly at the hem of his worn jacket. Before him lay a stretch of land dotted with ancient ruins, crumbled stone walls, and half-buried foundations that whispered of a civilization long past. The air was still, save for the faint rustling of distant desert grass and the occasional call of a desert bird awakening to the day. Beside him, Leela Hassan adjusted the straps of her pack, her eyes scanning the horizon with the same fierce intensity Jonathan had come to know so well. Her sun-kissed skin glowed in the early light, and her athletic frame was taut with energy. "It's beautiful," she said softly, breaking the silence. "And fragile. That's why this place needs protection now more than ever." Jonathan nodded, his gaze fixed on the ruins. They had come a long way since the perilous chase beneath the desert moon, emerging from the crucible of sandstorms, ancient traps, and relentless adversaries. But the true journey, the one that mattered most, was only just beginning. "I never thought I'd find a purpose beyond the chase," Jonathan admitted, voice low but steady. "For so long, it was about discovery, about proving the legends true. But now, it's about preserving what remains, protecting these stories from being lost or exploited." Leela smiled, a rare softness touching her usually sharp features. "You've always had that in you. The desert teaches us that some treasures aren't meant to be owned, they're meant to be honored." Their shared glance spoke volumes, a silent understanding forged through hardship and revelation. The lessons learned in the shifting dunes were etched not just in their memories, but in their very souls. Later that day, Jonathan found himself amid rows of dusty shelves in a quiet research library nestled in the city's heart. The scent of aged paper and leather bindings surrounded him as he carefully examined old manuscripts, photographs, and maps collected over years. His fingers traced the delicate script of an ancient text, the words, a bridge between past and present. Dr. Marcus Finch approached quietly, carrying a stack of journals. "I never imagined I'd see the day when legend and science walked hand in hand," Marcus said, adjusting his glasses with a wry smile. Jonathan looked up, meeting his colleague's gaze. "It's not about choosing one over the other anymore. It's about respect for history, for culture, for the people whose stories these are." Their conversation deepened into the evening, weaving between philosophy and practical plans. Marcus's skepticism had softened, replaced by a newfound appreciation for the mysteries that defied pure logic. Outside, the city hummed with life, but in the desert's embrace, a different rhythm beat, one of endurance, reverence, and hope. Back near the oasis, Lila gathered a group of local youths, their eager faces bright under the blazing sun. She demonstrated techniques for reading the desert's subtle signs, the direction of the wind, the tracks of elusive animals, the way water might hide beneath the sand. Laughter and questions filled the air, weaving a tapestry of connection between generations. Jonathan watched from a distance, a quiet smile tugging at his lips. This was the legacy he had come to understand, not immortality through mysterious waters or ancient spells, but the living memory preserved in hearts and hands. As the sun dipped low, casting long shadows over the dunes, Jonathan felt a calm settle within him. The desert had tested his limits, challenged his beliefs, and stripped away his illusions. What remained was a man transformed, ready to dedicate his life not to chasing myths, but to safeguarding the truths that mattered. A new purpose, Jonathan whispered to the wind, one that honors the past and protects the future. And beneath the vast, endless sky, the desert whispered back, a promise of stories yet to be told, and a legacy that would endure long after the sands had shifted. But even as hope blossomed, a subtle shadow stirred on the horizon, a reminder that the desert's mysteries were never truly at rest, and the endless chase was far from over. The journey had changed Jonathan Crane forever, setting him on a path where courage met compassion, and where the greatest discoveries lay not in hidden oases, but in the hearts of those willing to protect them. The desert sun dipped low, casting long shadows that stretched like fingers across the barren earth of the remote outpost. Jonathan Crane stood near the edge of the small encampment, his lean figure silhouetted against the fiery horizon. The air was thick with dust and the faint scent of dry sage, a reminder that despite the day's end, the desert was never truly calm. Across the dusty square from him, Malik al-Sayed emerged from the shadows of a weather-worn building, his presence as imposing as ever. The dark-skinned mercenary's muscular frame seemed sculpted by the unforgiving landscape itself, scars mapping a history of violence and survival across his face. His eyes, sharp and calculating, locked onto Jonathan's with a mixture of challenge and grudging respect. For a moment, the two men regarded each other in silence, the tension between them palpable. It was a standoff, not just of wills, but of history's years of pursuit, betrayal, and unresolved grudges converging beneath the vast desert sky. Leela Hassan stepped quietly to Jonathan's side, her athletic frame a steadying presence amid the charged atmosphere. The desert wind teased strands of her sun-kissed hair across her intense eyes, which flicked toward Malik with unwavering vigilance. "Hay's dangerous," she murmured, her voice low but firm. "We can't let our guard down." Jonathan nodded, his jaw tight. "I know, but he's not the only shadow here." From a ridge overlooking the outpost, a lone figure watched silently, cloaked by the gathering dusk. The moon began to rise, casting silver light that stretched long, eerie silhouettes over the sand dunes. The watcher's eyes gleamed with a predatory glint, betraying intentions yet unknown. As night settled, Jonathan retreated to the flickering campfire, the flames painting his weathered face with wavering light and shadow. Memories cascaded unbidden, the faces of lost comrades, the sting of past failures, and the relentless chase that had brought him to this precipice. Malik's shadow loomed large in those memories, a constant adversary shaped by ambition and vengeance. Yet beneath the weight of regret and exhaustion, a hard resolve took root. The desert had tested him in ways few could understand, but it had also forged a clarity of purpose. The oasis, the myth, the chase it, was more than just a quest for immortality now. It was a reckoning with the past, a battle for legacy. The conversation between Jonathan and Malik earlier had been terse and loaded with unspoken threats. Each word, each glance, a reminder of wounds that time had yet to heal. Malik's voice had been low, edged with bitter humor as he spoke of power and the price of dreams. Jonathan had countered with a steady conviction, unwilling to surrender the truth and honor he sought. As the camp settled into uneasy silence, the desert whispered its secrets. The shadows of the past were long, and the night was far from over. The uneasy truce between two relentless men hung by a thread, the promise of future conflict simmering just beneath the surface. Jonathan's gaze lifted from the dying embers to the stars above, each one a distant beacon in the vastness. Beneath the desert moon, the endless chase was far from finished, and the shadows of the past still held their grip. He whispered to the night, "This isn't over, Malik. Not by a long shot." The desert answered only with the soft rustle of the wind, carrying the echo of a challenge yet to come. The camp was quiet now, but the tension lingered like a thin film over every tent and crate. Leela moved with purposeful grace, checking supplies and scanning the perimeter with sharp eyes. Her loyalty to Jonathan was unwavering, but there was a shadow in her expression, premonition that the fragile peace would soon shatter. "We need to be ready," she said softly when Jonathan joined her by the edge of the camp. "Malik doesn't make empty threats." Jonathan's reply was a nod, his mind already racing through plans and contingencies. "Then we'll be ready. This time, we end it on our terms." As the night deepened, the desert seemed to hold its breath. Every rustle, every whisper of sand, carried a weight of anticipation. The past had collided with the present, and the future was poised on a knife's edge. Jonathan allowed himself a brief moment to reflect on how far he had come, how the chase for the lost oasis had transformed into a battle not just for a mythical prize, but for survival, redemption, and the meaning of legacy itself. And as the stars wheeled overhead and the desert moon climbed higher, he knew one thing with certainty: the shadows of the past would not be easily cast aside. Malik was waiting, and the next move would decide everything. The desert night whispered its ancient warning: the chase was endless, and the stakes had never been higher. Jonathan tightened his grip on the worn leather strap of his satchel, feeling the weight of history and hope intertwined within it. Tomorrow, the dance with destiny would resume. But for now, beneath the cold light of the desert moon, a fragile silence reigned, a silence that promised the storm to come. The desert stretched endlessly before Jonathan Crane, a vast ocean of sand and shadow under the silver glow of the desert moon. He stood atop a towering dune, the cool night breeze brushing against his weathered face, carrying with it the scent of dry earth and distant desert blooms. The sky above was a vast canvas of stars, each one flickering like a distant beacon in the profound silence that enveloped the world. Beside him, Leela Hassan leaned on her staff, her sharp eyes reflecting the quiet majesty of the night. They were alone, but not lonely, bound together by the journey they had endured and the secrets they had glimpsed in the shifting sands. Jonathan's gaze swept across the undulating dunes, their shadows forming intricate patterns that seemed to dance beneath the moonlight. The oasis, that ethereal mirage they had chased for so long, was gone, now vanished like a whispered dream at dawn. Yet, in its disappearance, it left behind something far more enduring, a profound sense of mystery and a reminder that some truths were not meant to be fully grasped. "It's beautiful," Lila said softly, breaking the silence. The desert never truly reveals all its secrets. It keeps some things just out of reach, like a song that plays only in the wind. Jonathan nodded, his thoughts turning inward. For years, he had been consumed by the pursuit of the oasis, driven by ambition and haunted by the ghosts of a failed expedition. The allure of immortality had been a blazing fire in his heart, but now, beneath the quiet light of the desert moon, that fire had transformed into a steady glow of understanding. "I used to think that finding the oasis would fix everything," Jonathan admitted, his voice low and contemplative, "that it would erase the past and grant me something more. But now I see that the chase itself is the true prize. The journey, the questions, the endless horizon, that's where the real meaning lies." Lila smiled, a mixture of pride and empathy in her eyes. The desert teaches us patience and humility. It reminds us that we are but fleeting shadows in its timeless expanse. They sat together on the dune's crest, the cold sand beneath them grounding their weary bodies. Lila began to recount ancient tales passed down through generations of desert nomad stories of seekers who had tracked mirages and chased legends, only to find that the chase was a sacred dance with the unknown. These stories echoed with a timeless wisdom that resonated deeply within Jonathan, weaving a tapestry of connection between past and present. As the night deepened, Jonathan felt the weight of his obsession lift. The relentless pursuit that had once threatened to consume him now felt like a thread connecting him to something greater, a legacy not of immortality, but of discovery, sacrifice, and respect for the mysteries that shape human existence. A faint shimmer caught his eye at the horizon. A mirage flickered, elusive and teasing, reflecting the flickering campfire light behind him. Yet this time, Jonathan did not reach for it with desperation. Instead, he observed it with quiet acceptance, understanding that some illusions were part of the desert's eternal song. The first pale hues of dawn began to stain the sky. Jonathan rose, brushing sand from his clothes, and took a solitary walk along the ridge of the dune. His footprints marked the sand briefly before the wind whispered them away, a reminder of the transient nature of all things. Pausing, he looked back toward the horizon where the oasis had once shimmered, now nothing but a memory woven into the fabric of the desert. A gentle smile touched his lips, a silent vow to honor the journey and the lessons it had bestowed. "The chase is endless," he murmured to the waking wind, "and that is its gift." With that, Jonathan Crane turned toward the rising sun, carrying with him a soul transformed, no longer a man consumed by obsession, but a guardian of stories, a seeker of truths, and a witness to the desert's eternal dance between myth and reality. Underneath the desert moon, the endless chase continued. A timeless journey where every step forward was a step deeper into the heart of mystery itself. The desert night stretched vast and silent beneath the canopy of stars, a shimmering veil of darkness pierced only by the luminous glow of the desert moon. Dr. Jonathan Crane stood atop a high dune, the cool night breeze teasing the rough edges of his weathered face, his sharp eyes fixed on the horizon where the lost oasis had vanished moments before. The ethereal shimmer that had marked the oasis's presence faded into the desert air like a fragile dream dissolving with the dawn. Around him, the world was still, save for the whisper of the wind carrying the faint scent of jasmine and dry earth. The silence was profound, broken only by the distant rustle of sand shifting under the desert's breath. Jonathan's heart pounded with a quiet intensity, a mix of exhaustion and awakening swelling deep within his chest. The arduous journey, the relentless chase, the sacrifices made, all converged here. Beneath the desert moon, where myth and reality blurred to a single point of luminous clarity, He lowered his gaze to the sand beneath his boots, remembering every step that had led him here. The ancient manuscript, the assembling of his team, the fierce storms that had threatened to bury them alive, and the cruel machinations of Malik al-Sayed, whose shadow had dogged his every move. But more than the external dangers, it was the internal battle, the ghosts of past failures, the weight of guilt, and the burning desire for redemption that had tested him most. Behind him, soft footsteps approached, and two familiar figures emerged from the darkness. Lila Hassan, her sun-kissed skin glowing faintly under the moonlight, and Dr. Marcus Finch, his bespectacled face etched with lines of wariness and wonder. They halted a respectful distance away, their eyes reflecting the same mixture of awe and contemplation that Jonathan felt. No words were needed. Their shared silence spoke volumes of the journey's cost and meaning. Lila's voice was a gentle whisper, barely audible over the desert's hush. "It's like the oasis was never really here, but I feel its presence in the air, in the sand." Jonathan nodded slowly, his gaze lifting to the stars scattered across the sky like shards of ancient glass. It was never meant to be captured or possessed. It is a living memory, a guardian of secrets too profound for the world. Marcus adjusted his glasses, his voice tinged with a newfound reverence. "I doubted the legends, but this was beyond anything I imagined. The oasis, the illusions, the ancient protectors, they challenge our understanding of time and reality." Jonathan's thoughts drifted back to the final confrontation with Malik beneath the fading desert moon. The fierce battle had tested every ounce of his strength and resolve, culminating in the choice that defined him to protect the oasis's secret rather than claim its promise of immortality. That sacrifice had weighed heavily on him, but in this moment of quiet reflection, it felt like the only path that honored the true spirit of discovery. The desert whispered stories on the wind tales of lost civilizations, eternal chasers, and the fragile boundary between legend and truth. Jonathan felt a profound connection to the countless souls who had sought the oasis before him, each drawn by hope, desperation, or ambition. Yet the oasis remained elusive, a symbol of the mysteries that the desert jealously guards. Lila broke the silence again, her voice steady with conviction. "What now, Jonathan? After all we've faced, what will you do with what you've learned?" He turned to face her and Marcus, his eyes reflecting the depth of his transformation. "We protect it. Not just the oasis, but the stories, the culture, the lessons embedded in this land. True immortality isn't about living forever. It's about the legacy we leave behind, the impact we make on the world and those who come after us." A faint glow on the horizon heralded the coming dawn, the first tendrils of light softening the harsh outlines of the desert. The oasis had vanished, but its essence lingered, a reminder that some treasures are meant to remain mysteries, their value measured not in possession but in reverence. Jonathan inhaled deeply, the desert air filling his lungs with crisp promise. Beneath the desert moon, he had found not the eternal life he sought, but something far more profound: acceptance, purpose, and a renewed commitment to honor the past while embracing the future. As the first golden rays touched the dunes, Jonathan Crane stepped forward. The weight of the desert's secrets balanced now with the lightness of hope. The endless chase would continue, for the desert's mysteries are eternal, and so too is the spirit of those who dare to seek them. And so, underneath the desert moon, the story came full circle, not with an ending, but with the promise of new beginnings, whispered on the wind and etched forever in the sands of time.